Absolutely. Don't ask me about the budget because I haven't seen it yet. So,
I think they're just talking about it now. So
okay, good.
I'll ask you what you want to see in the budget, then we'll see.
Okay,
We can just go live and see if you
totally
got.
fine.
All right.
Yeah.
So last week I was gonna actually go to Oakville to go to a steakhouse, and I'll be honest with you, it was actually a steakhouse that had the
Oliver's.
COVID-19 outbreak of the variants.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got to ask. I know this happened in Halton. It is still Oakville, but it is you guys are still married with Halton's public health. Do you see any other restrictions coming down the pipeline in regards to restaurants because of this?
I'm very glad you asked that. So the province actually issued some additional guidelines when they issued the change to capacity, including that people only eat with members of their own household. Additional instructions were provided on Monday night that took effect 12:01 a.m. on Tuesday. So they are in effect now. Those were issued by the medical officer of health, and those are as follows. Every restaurant has to do a COVID screening using a standard form to make sure nobody enters the premises who might have COVID. They have to take contact information so that patrons can be contacted quickly if there is an outbreak. And finally, you can only sit with members of your own household. And there are two exceptions to that. One is if you're a caregiver for somebody, you can sit at the same table, or two, if you are a single household and you've got one other exclusive household that you join with, you can sit with them, but that's it. So those are in effect now, and this will help spread the word.
Okay, but a lot of people don't know that.
No,
I have,
no, they don't. And it just came, in fairness to everybody, it
yeah.
just came out. But we are trying really hard on my social feeds as well as blog and elsewhere to spread the word. The information is posted at halton.ca, so you can find it there, but the links are all from my feeds as well, if it's easier to find me.
Okay.
And all of the instructions and the rationale are there. So hopefully, the word will get out. We've certainly shared it with the Burlington Restaurant Association, Tourism Chamber. They're all spreading the word to their members, so it should be out and about very quickly now.
I'll make sure to push it out too.
Thank
Numbers
you.
are going numbers are going up,
They are.
unfortunately,
They are.
quite drastically. Is Burlington, I hate to say, is Burlington going back to lockdown, or have you heard anything?
We haven't heard that, and we're kind of, we've kind of hovered on either side of that, 40 per 100, which is kind of the magic line to either go back into orange, stay in red, and not certainly not get rolled back. We are climbing a little bit, but we are, so we have to be very careful. And the advice from the medical officer of health remains: don't go out except for essential trips. That is the advice, and that's been the advice for quite some time. And so as much as you can, do curbside, do online. If you're going to go to a restaurant, that is still okay for those special occasions, but only with members of your own household. And then we've got all of those precautions. So we still need people to be safe and follow all of the health measures when they do go out. But ideally, stick to essential trips, wear a mask, wash your hands if you're not feeling well, stay home. All of those messages are still extremely important, even if you've been vaccinated. And what we're starting to now hear is folks, oh, I've been vaccinated, I don't need to wear a mask anymore. We're hearing that, we're having those conversations. I know that's happening in some of the businesses, we're hearing those stories. It is absolutely essential for everybody, regardless of whether you've gotten a vaccine, to continue to follow all of those public health measures. And until we reach a critical mass of vaccinations and as it's called, herd immunity, which would probably not be until the summer or fall, depending on the flow of vaccinations and the uptake in the community. Those public health measures are absolutely going to continue and be necessary.
So we've heard from some doctors saying that if we don't lock down now, there might be lockdowns this summer and even going into fall. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we certainly take our guidance from our own medical officer of health and respect what she has to say. So, we had a briefing today at Halton Region, and her advice is, as I've told you, stay home except for essential trips. And if you're going to a restaurant, then there's additional precautionary measures, and stick with your own household. So that continues to be the message from our medical officer of health. And that, I suppose strikes the balance between allowing certain businesses to remain open and remain afloat while also keeping safe. We do not want to roll back. I know nobody wants to roll back, but we have to keep each other safe. And so it really does depend on the community continuing to follow all of those public health measures if they must go out.
Now, talking about, I know Red is 50% capacity for restaurants or up to 50 people. Do you think that's a little bit much?
We advocated for a capacity based on square footage.
Okay.
We thought that made a whole lot more sense. So we didn't think there was science or health behind a massive restaurant that could seat maybe a couple of hundred people being capped at 10, and a teeny tiny little bistro also being capped at 10. And so when they started looking at capacity restrictions based on the science of, can physical distancing be maintained? And that's based on square footage and space. And they did it for retail, they did it for groceries. And we said we should be doing that for restaurants as well. And so the province obviously consulted with their own health table, and those are the measures that they put in place, with the additional safety measure of only eating with members of your own household, which is what I've voluntarily done since the summer, since things opened up. That's what we that's what we have done, with one exception for an outdoor patio when we were separated and it was outside, right? So we're heading back into outdoor patio season, and so that I know folks feel a little safer when there's airflow, and the science certainly supports that for outside dining. But the idea that the capacity be based on square footage is the right one, and you don't get to 50. I think maybe some folks thought that every restaurant could now have 50. That's not the case. It's 50% first. And if 50% for you is 10, you're still capped at 10, right? But if you're a big restaurant, and we have some of those in our city that have never been able to open because they simply couldn't make it economically feasible at the cap of 10. If they could fit hundreds of people in their building, and to cap them at 10 didn't make scientific or health sense or economic sense. And so, but even those, so let's say you're a restaurant that could fit 200, you don't get 50% of that. You don't get 100, you're still capped at 50. So I think it was the right sort of balance and considerations, a cautious science-based approach based on physical distancing, which is exactly what we need to maintain when we're fighting this pandemic.
How are the numbers in Burlington now?
I haven't looked at today's data. A day or two ago, we were at 5 new cases, still under 100, which is good for us. Our peak was around Christmas time with the second wave, and that was when we were seeing cases over 100. We were seeing new case rates, 50, 60, 70 just for our municipality. So we're still, well under where we were in the second wave, and our municipality is still doing fairly well compared to some of the municipalities even within Halton region. So I know our residents are taking this very seriously. I appreciate that. Continue to follow those health measures, because on a per capita basis, we're still doing very well. And obviously we're still, as we have throughout this pandemic, doing much better on new cases and infection rates, much lower than the hotspots around us.
Let's talk vaccines now. How is the vaccine rollout going in Burlington?
Very well. I've heard nothing but good things from people who have booked their appointment. The online system is working very well. Once they get to the clinics, the system is working very well. It's very streamlined. People feel safe and comfortable. There's no waiting in line. There's no crowding. And at the end of it, you get your piece of paper, or you can have it on your phone saying you've been immunized. So you've got proof if you ever needed that, but you can certainly demonstrate that you have had your first vaccine, and some folks, of course, have already had the second. And the aged groups are coming down quite rapidly now. So as of Friday, folks that are 70 and older will be able to get vaccinated. So all
Okay.
of our vaccine rollout depends, of course, on supply, and we are ready. As soon as we get more supply, we'll keep immunizing and adding more groups to the eligibility list, but it all depends on supply, and of course we at the city don't, or region don't, control that.
Okay. And I asked this to the mayor of Mississauga as well. If there's any like refugees or new Canadians that need vaccinations, how would that work in
Well,
Burlington?
they would be under the same the same criteria. So are they over 80, or are they in a
Okay.
healthcare sector, or in a home, or visiting, are they a caregiver? So they would fall under the exact same phase 2 priority sequencing as everyone else. We do have a Halton Newcomers Center, so if folks need help with language, or finding out how to navigate the system or book an appointment, that resource is certainly available to them. But
Awesome.
if they live here, or they live with people who live here, then and they meet the eligibility criteria, then they're eligible.
Okay, perfect. So, the vaccination drugstore pilot program, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but you've heard of it. It's
Yep.
not, I believe it's in Kingston and a couple, Toronto and a couple other places. Do you know if Halton's going to get it?
We have not been included in that first pilot project, and have no insight that that's going to change anytime soon. And partly because that pharmacy program has been directed to those areas of the province that are on fire,
Yeah.
where the most need is. And I think everyone can understand that makes sense. You gotta put out the fire.
Yeah.
Um, I think the premier may have described it as, you deal with the forest fire before you deal with the grass fire.
Yeah.
Words to that effect. But yes, the vaccine is being directed in that pilot project to the areas of significant need and outbreak.
Yeah. Mayor Brown and Mayor Crombie are both yelling, "Look at us over here. We didn't get it." But
Well,
they did get it.
we did have that conversation at Halton Region today. Certainly our chair has been a great advocate, Gary Carr, for the region on behalf of all of us,
Yeah.
and we're ready, right? We are ready to receive and participate in that program, and we also recognize that where the need is the greatest, where the risk is the greatest to all of us. If one area right beside you is on fire, you really do have to deal with that. That's a risk ultimately to us because of travel. Then we understand that has to be addressed.
True. I'm going to ask you to put your doctor's cap on now.
I don't have a doctor's cap. Let me
It's like,
just
I'm throwing all these
stop you
vaccine
right
questions,
there.
throwing all these vaccine questions at you. So my mom got her vaccine.
Awesome.
She got it, but she has to wait 4 months. Her next shot's not until July 5th. Now, what do you think of this stretching out for 4 months? Because if you think about it, let's just say when it's time for us to go in June, right? We might not get our second dose until October, if that's the case, you know? So what do you think of this stretching out for 4 months? Hopefully it stops once, we get supply, but we haven't got it yet.
Great question. And I would actually invite everybody to go to the Halton Region website because we discussed all of these things at our Halton Regional Council meeting. So at around, I'm going to say noon was the beginning of the briefing by our medical officer of health. They will put that video online, and all of the questions, her briefing to us, as well as all of the questions and answers, are going to be available, and the region will put that out on their social feeds as well. So you can hear it straight from the medical officer of health, but since I was there, I do have the answer for you because this very question was asked of our medical officer of health. And essentially, first of all, the science supports that 4 months is acceptable. And the most important thing, according to what we heard from our medical officer of health, is getting as many people as possible the first dose. That first dose is is sort of the super dose. The second is a booster. So we want to make sure that everybody possible in greater numbers, and that's why the time frame was extended to get more people that opportunity to have the sort of that first super dose. And the science supports extending the booster to 4 months. So
Okay.
that's what the doctor told me.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Not my words, those are hers, but you can see it on the video for yourself.
Because that doesn't bode well for the possible events this summer, because if there's a 4 months wait, we might not all be vaccinated till October or November, but anyways.
Not fully, but the message very loud and clear was that first dose gives you a high percentage of the value of being vaccinated at all. It's not like 50-50, and that's the point. So we really need more people to get that first dose sooner.
Okay.
And that's what this allows us to do.
So let me ask you this, and so if, let's just say, supplies coming in now, supposedly today, there's going to be millions and millions coming in, I think, for the next 2-3 weeks. If supply does increase, do you think that the time span between the first and second shot will decrease?
We're ready for whatever, right? And those decisions, of course, are not made at the local level. And I don't know. I can't answer that. I mean, the goal, if we were able to get every single person their first vaccine and then start round 2 sooner, of course we would do that. There's no question. I mean, the whole goal is to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible. Okay. So we'll be flexible. We'll follow what the province and our own medical officer of health recommend. But our clinics are ready. Our people are ready. Our system is working. It is seamless. It is, we're ready to go. So we can ramp up as soon as we get vaccines. And once once people get that first needle, then we go back to round 2. Okay.
And I've asked this to every mayor, so I have to ask you. You're obviously going to get the vaccine, right? When it's your turn. Yeah. So, would you get the AstraZeneca vaccine, and would you do it in public? Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. And here's another question that came up earlier. The best vaccine is the one that is right in front of you to take. Period. Okay. Full stop. Get whatever you are offered, and I will absolutely get whatever is on the deck when I go in to get my appointment. And if it's AstraZeneca, of course.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll do a photo op regardless.
Okay, all right.
Because you know what, it's just really important for the community to see their leaders are walking the same walk that we ask them to, and to help to overcome maybe some vaccination hesitancy. And so we had one of our mayors in Halton, you may have seen this already, because he's eligible in the age category, and that's Gord Krantz. So Gord got his needle on the weekend and took a picture, and I gave him a big shout out for doing that today. So I'm a little further down the line on the age category, so thankfully. But yeah, I will absolutely let folks know when and what to try to instill some community confidence in overcoming any hesitancy to get the vaccine.
Okay. Schools in Peel region, I think there's about over 10 closed now. How are the schools doing in Burlington?
Well, I mean, there have been school closures periodically. I know there's a lot of, everyone's concerned about making sure our kids are safe. Everyone is. Public health is, the school boards are, the teachers are, and of course, first and foremost, the parents are wanting to make sure that it's safe. So when there is an outbreak, there's immediate action that's taken by the school board, and all of the measures put in place to ensure contact tracing and care for folks and self-isolation before people come back to the classroom. So it's been relatively smooth, but of course there have been outbreaks and closures in Burlington as well. Not anything approaching Peel, but again, our numbers overall are far less. Peel's a hotspot for a reason.
Let's talk about the Ontario budget. The hardest name in showbiz today, Peter Bethlenfalvy.
Well done.
Yeah, no, I practiced. So, and then he's doing his first budget today, the Ontario budget. What would you like to see for Burlington in the budget?
So we did a formal letter to Mr. Bethlenfalvy, and that is posted on my mariannemeedward.ca website. Among the items, of course, we want additional Safe Restart funding because we will continue throughout this year to run at a loss on our recreation programs, which can't run at capacity, and some of them, of course, have been canceled altogether and ported to virtual. The numbers of folks that would normally make it cost effective, we simply can't have. Transit numbers are down, obviously more work from home, fewer, 30% capacity or 50% capacity on the bus. So our revenue is down and our cost, like everyone else, is up. Cleaning and a whole range of other ongoing costs. So that was probably our biggest request, is for additional Safe Restart funding, which we were very grateful to get from the province. Transit funding always is top of our list to try to encourage and provide a way for people to get around without the use of a single occupancy vehicle. And a number of other items, but those were really the biggest. We had some specific items for Burlington, but generally those are the ones that are being asked for by mayors across the province, and we certainly did too. And we'll be that's what I'll be looking for when I finally get to see the budget, get off my Zoom day and see what else is happening elsewhere in the world.
Cool. The City of Burlington is now accepting applications for the Neighborhood Community Matching Fund, where approved projects could receive up to $10,000. Tell us more about this project or this initiative.
Yeah, this has been something the city has had for a while, and kudos to our Parks and Rec staff, and particularly our Manager of Recreation Services, Denise Beard. And what this does is it encourages community grassroots initiatives, whether it's events, whether it's we want to build a ball diamond. If you can do some either local fundraising or what we call sweat equity, if you have volunteers that are willing to contribute to an initiative or an event or a specific project, we will count that at a minimum wage rate and then match it up to $10,000. So there have been some amazing things happening throughout COVID, a lot of virtual events. There have been art installations, a lot of different things. So we really encourage people to, put on your creative thinking cap and apply for that funding. It's available. And I don't know that we've ever used it all up. So, so if you've got a good proposal and you meet the criteria, that's all available on burlington.ca website, then yeah, we've just seen some really incredible things happening in the community, and we've put some money on the table to foster really grassroots community initiatives.
That's awesome. So, and you said that there's always money left on the table. Does that mean like people just don't apply for it, or is it just like kind of people will know it? Or
well, we've never turned anyone down because we didn't have money. We've approved you're approved.
So hopefully somebody's listening and has an awesome idea.
So we've never had to turn people away because we ran out of money is kind of what I'm trying to say. Because if we don't get enough applications one year, it goes to a reserve. So if we get a lot of applications, we pull out of that. So there's always some funding available and ways for us to help. So don't be shy about applying. We really do encourage people to take us up on that.
Cool, that's an awesome initiative. 2 questions here from viewers. Can all outdoor Burlington pickleball courts be open now for spring? We need exercise! !
I absolutely agree with you. Could be my neighbor who wrote that, who talks to me regularly, God love him, about pickleball. Yes, the plan is to get so there are some that were open throughout the winter season. Those are still open. And the plan is within the next 2 weeks or so to get the remaining courts open. So we're really supportive of that. And actually, we hope that this outdoor recreation activity especially on what we used to consider the off season or the shoulder season, continues post-COVID. It's great to see people out in the winter. It's great to see people out this time of year. And, you know, we're officially in spring. It's still a little cool, although it's apparently gorgeous out today. I don't know.
Go for a walk after.
Yeah, I will. So yes, we are working hard to advance those dates and make it a regular thing.
Nice.
I think all of council's really interested in providing year-round outdoor recreational services, which is new for us, right? There wasn't the uptake, and so we didn't do it before. And then with COVID changed everything, and we figured out that not only can we do it, but there is demand, and I think that demand will stay.
True. So another question we have here, just biked Lakeshore Road between Appleby and Walker's, no, and no is in caps. No line painted markers, unsafe. End. End of sentence. So no period.
For cycling?
Yeah, for cycling.
So Lakeshore has what we call sharrows, although I'd have to go out to that end. To see if the sharrows are faded or if they need to be repainted.
Okay.
But it's really to signal to share the road. Without widening Lakeshore and, you know, cutting down a whole pile of trees, which would work against our tree canopy and climate change goals. There's not the road width for a full bike lane and the lanes of traffic. So what we have is sharrows to alert drivers that you know, to watch for cyclists, and it works fairly well.
Yeah.
There's also, in some stretches, there's wide, what we call a multi-use asphalt path. So people have the choice of getting off the road completely in that stretch to cycle if they would like.
Sorry, sorry, maybe it was just me kind of relaying the message. He was just saying that there's no lines painted, so there was
and maybe I interpreted that to mean there's no dedicated bike lane with lines, and he's right about that. That's true.
Okay. Awesome. Those are all the questions I have. Would you like to talk about anything else, or is there anything that you're doing? I think we got
vaccines, restaurants. Oh, actually, I have one more update on the restaurant file, which is good news for our community. So they had asked us, I had a consultation in partnership with our Burlington Economic Recovery Network, which includes our ECDEV, Chamber, BIAs, and Tourism, as well as our Burlington Restaurant Association and a number of restaurant operators. About 40 folks came out, and they had a number of requests for us. Some were advocacy to the province. So, for example, I didn't know this until they talked to us about it, that they pay the same at the liquor store as you and I would. There's no discount for wholesale. And so they're asking for that to change. So we advocated to the province about that. Part of the ask around capacity limits to be based on ability to safely social distance rather than just a straight cap. That was part of what came out of that consultation. We advocated to the province on that. And the other thing that they alerted us to was the city's requirement that if they are on city property, like a sidewalk for their patio, so we have our patio program, that we require them to have liability of $5 million. A lot of them had $2 million liability, and to make the jump from 2 to 5, they told us, was a significant premium increase. Well, that's money out of their pocket for insurance, and that's a city requirement. And so they said, could you just not have that city requirement? So we talked about it at council on Tuesday, and Toronto has 1 million liability. They changed that just for the period of the pandemic where patios are using city sidewalks. All the other Halton municipalities have 2 million.
Okay.
And so we thought, okay, look, this is a way that we can keep a little bit more money in the pockets of our restaurants by not making them do the jump and pay the extra premium for that. A lot of them already have 5 million, like some of them would have that anyway. So we're talking about a small number of restaurants, but nevertheless, it was a request that came directly from our restaurants. We listened, we heard them, and so council voted unanimously to not require for the period of this year's patio program, and really to try to tie it to, this is a COVID measure. We understand you're struggling, and you know, normally we would want the 5 million, but during COVID we understand, and we're trying to balance a bunch of different things and help you financially. So that was one way that we could, like I said, keep a little bit more money in the pockets of our restaurants, and without taking undue risk, because it really does apply to a small number of restaurants. A lot of them already have the 5 and they just carry on. So so that's good news for our restaurants, I think.
And is that like when did that get approved? Is that recent? Or?
Yesterday.
Oh, yesterday. Okay.
Brand new. Yes. Brand new. We did a bunch
Cool.
of other stuff too, but don't ask me for it, because
Okay, no worries.
sometimes I don't remember what I did a half hour ago. But yeah, no, it was great.
Okay.
It was great to see, and in fact, we've had great uptake on our patio program for the summer. So it officially starts, I believe it is April 15th, and it goes to October 31st. So that's the license period. So the insurance period that we just talked about is tied to that business license period for your outdoor summer patio. And so we've had 29 applications. Most of those are returning, and almost all of them have been approved already, because it was easy peasy. So that's great news. And I think we talked about this before, that we're going to do like the patio challenge.
We are. I was just
Only
gonna
with
say,
members of your own household, though. That's
we'll wait till we're both double jabbed, right? So we're both vaccinated. Everybody's vaccinated. Everything's back to normal. Then we can check out patios normally.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so that yeah, that's good news.
Awesome. Cool.
And there's lots, there's lots of plans being put in place for virtual programming. So Canada Day is going to be virtual again this year. Our staff just won a Festivals and Events Ontario award for our Canada Day and our Santa's Magic Trail. So we did that reverse parade where Santa came to your neighborhood. And
nice.
Yeah, so our Parks and Rec are really creative, and they've been recognized for that, which is awesome. And so they'll continue to, try to do programming within the confines of the restrictions that we're all under right now.
Mayor Meed Ward, thank you so much again. I'll let you get back to budget watching, and hopefully talk to.
Thanks, Khaled.
All right, take care. I'll see you next week.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.